tulay sa South Korea biglang bumagsak.
May mga natrap kaya mula sa bumagsak na debris sa daan ang kalagayan doon. Malalaman maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki, Alagao, Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Martes.
Malacanang natuwa sa exemption ng Pilipinas mula sa foreign aid freeze ng Estados Unidos.
Dalawang Pilipino sa Hong Kong arestado dahil sa tangkang pag-withdraw ng 10 bilyong dolyar.
Chinese President Xi Jinping at Russian President Vladimir Putin nag-usap sa telepono.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen sinabing pwedeng sumali ng EU ang Ukraine.
At higit sa 1,000 empleyado ng Starbucks mawawalan ng trabaho. Ikinatuwa ng Malacanang ang naging desisyon ni Pangulong Donald Trump na i-exempt ang $336 million na tulong sa Pilipinas sa foreign aid freeze ng Estados Unidos.
Tinawag naman ni Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro na malaking tulong ito lalo na sa modernization ng Armed Forces of the Philippines o AFP.
Of course, natutuwa po tayo, nagkaroon nga po ng direktiba ang si US President Trump na 90 days magkakaroon ng i-freeze ang foreign aid. So kung nagkaroon po tayo ng exemption at nagkaroon po tayo at ibibigay po at i-release ang $500 million foreign Filipino financing sa atin, ito po ay napakalaking bagay at nagpapasalamat po tayo sa suporta na yan. Tandaan po natin.
Dagdag ni Castro, ang USAID ay mula pa sa gobyerno ni dating US President Joe Biden at ito'y pinagtibay din sa panahon ni President Trump. Samantala, ayon naman kay Philippine Ambassador to the United States Jose Manuel Romualdez, ang nasabing halaga na $500 million na foreign military financing ng Estados Unidos na inaprubahan ng US Congress noong nakaraang taon sa ilalim ng administrasyong Biden. Ayon kay Ambassador Romualdez, mahalagang senyalis ito na magpapatuloy ang matatag na ugnayan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos sa ilalim ng administrasyong Trump.
Inaresto ng Hong Kong Police ang 2 Pilipino dahil sa tangkang pag-withdraw ng 10 bilyong dolyar mula sa isang bangko gamit ang mga pekeng dokumento. Batay sa report ng Philippine Consulate General sa Hong Kong, ipiniresenta umano ang dalawa ang isang fabricated capability letter, isang guarantee certificate o guarantee letter at isang certificate of balance mula sa Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation para makapag-withdraw ng malaking halaga ng salapi. Kinilala naman ang isa sa mga suspect bilang isang senior na 68 anyos. Kasama niya ang isang 38 anyos na babae na nagpakilala bilang isang abogado. Ayon sa otoridad, kung sila man ay mapatutunayang nagkasala o guilty, ay posibleng makulong ang mga ito ng hanggang 14 na taon.
Pinabibilisan na ng Department of Transportation ang privatization ng Metro Rail Transit Line 3 at EDSA Busway. Ayon sa ahensya, mahalaga ang nasabing privatization dahil nais ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na maging maayos at maganda ang daloy ng transportasyon sa Pilipinas. Anila, isang halimbawa ito na ang Ninoy Aquino o halimbawa nito ang Ninoy Aquino International Airport na hinahawakan na ngayon ng isang private company. Tiniyak naman ng Transportation Department na kahit maraming privatization ang magaganap sa Pilipinas, ay magiging prioridad pa rin nila ang kapakanan ng mga Pilipinong biyahero.
Pinag-aaralan ngayon ng Department of Agriculture o DA ang pagpapatupad ng Maximum Suggested Retail Price o MSRP sa sibuyas sa kabila po na mataas na presyo nito sa merkado. Ayon sa ehensya, plano nila magtakda ng MSRP sa sandaling dumating ang mga inangkat na sibuyas habang nananatiling mataas pa rin ang presyo nito. Sinabi ni Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr., malapit na ang anihan ng sibuyas kaya't mapapataw man ang MSRP sa sibuyas ay maaaring tumagal lamang ito ng 2 linggo. Batay sa monitoring ng DA, mabibili ang local red onion sa halagang 120 hanggang 140 pesos kada kilo, habang ang lokal na puting sibuyas ay nasa 90 hanggang 150 pesos per kilo at ang imported white onions naman sa halagang 100 up to 160 pesos per kilo.
Nag-anunsyo ang Meralco na magtataas sila ng singil sa kuryente sa susunod na buwan. Inaprubahan kasi ng Energy Regulatory Commission o ERC ang mas mataas na rate para sa feed-in tariff allowance o FIT-all. Ang FIT-all ay ang uniform charge na ipinapataw sa lahat ng on-grid electricity consumers na bahagi naman ng electricity bill para sa development at promotion ng renewable energy sa bansa. Ayon sa ERC, inaprubahan nila ang aplikasyon ng National Transmission Corporation na itaas ang FIT-all rate sa 0.1189 pesos kada kilowatt hour mula sa 0.0838 pesos per kilowatt hour. Ibig sabihin, may dagdag na 7 pesos sa kanilang bill ang kumukonsumo ng 200 kilowatt per hour sa isang buwan. Una nang nag-anunsyo ang Meralco ng pagtaas sa singil ng kuryente ngayong Pebrero na nasa higit 28 pesos kada kilowatt hour.
Sa tuwing nagsasagawa ng multilateral o bilateral drills ang Pilipinas kasama ang ibang bansa sa West Philippine Sea o WPS ay nababawasan ang coercive actions ng Chinese military. Ayon kay Philippine Navy spokesperson for the WPS, Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, walang Chinese vessels na nakita malapit sa lokasyon ng WPS drills nang magsagawa ng Maritime Cooperative Activity o MCA ang Pilipinas at ang France noong February 21. Kung mayroon mang Navy, Coast Guard o Maritime Militia ang China, ay nasa mahigit 120 nautical miles ang layo nito sa MCA. Samantala, tiniyak ni Trinidad na marami pang multilateral at bilateral exercises na isasagawa ang Pilipinas kasama ang mga kaalyado nito sa WPS.
Naghain ng isang petisyon ng health reform advocate na si Dr. Anthony Leachon sa Korte Suprema upang questionin ang constitutionality ng 2025 General Appropriations Act o GAA, partikular ang zero subsidy para sa PhilHealth. Pinangalanan sa petisyon bilang respondents ang House of Representatives, ang Senado at si Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin. Ayon sa petitioner, dapat in-nullify ang mga probisyon ng GAA patungkol sa PhilHealth dahil salungat umano ito sa mga mandato ng saligang batas, lalo na ang constitutional right to health ng mga Pilipino na nag-aata sa gobyerno na gawing prioridad ang healthcare funding at siguradihing may accessible medical services para sa lahat. Labag din niya sa Universal Healthcare Act at sa Sin Tax Reform Act of 2012 ang GAA. Hiniling din ng petitioner sa Korte Suprema na mag-issue ng temporary restraining order at preliminary injunction laban sa pagpapatupad ng pambansang budget.
Hiniling naman ng Korte Suprema sa Kongreso na maghain ng komento sa petisyon ni Vice President Sara Duterte na kumikwestiyon sa impeachment proceedings laban sa kanya. Bukod po sa House of Representatives ay kailangan din magsumite ng komento ang Senado at maging si House Secretary General Reginald Velasco ng kanilang komento sa loob ng 10 araw mula sa receipt of notice. Sa kanyang petisyon na inihain noong nakarang linggo ay kinwestiyon ni VP Sara ang validity and constitutionality ng impeachment complaint. Dapat anyang i-declare ito na null and void dahil labag umano ito sa 1-year ban na nakasaad sa konstitusyon. Samantala, sinabi rin ni Supreme Court spokesperson Attorney Camille Ting na pinag-aaralan pa ng Korte Suprema kung dapat bang i-consolidate ang petisyon ni Duterte sa isa pang kasong isinampa ng mga abogado sa Mindanao na humihingi naman ng cease and desist order upang pigilan ng Senado na ituloy ang impeachment trial.
She claims the impeachment complaint violated Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 5 of the Constitution, which states that no impeachment proceedings shall be initiated against the same official more than once within a period of 1 year. The court required the House of Representatives, its Secretary General Reginald Velasco, and the Senate to comment on the petition within a non-extendable period of 10 days from notice.
Susunod, Chinese President Xi Jinping ipinagmalaki ang pagkakaibigan nila ni Russian President Vladimir Putin.
King Charles nanguna sa humanitarian work sa London.
At French President Emmanuel Macron at US President Donald Trump ang nagsagutan sa gitna ng press conference. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
This portion.
Namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Nanindigan si Chinese President Xi Jinping na hinding-hindi sila mapaghihiwalay ni Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ito ang naging pahayag ni Xi matapos na tawagan sa telepono si Putin sa una nilang pag-uusap simula noong umanib ang Estados Unidos sa Russia para sa kanyang kagustuhang tapusin ang giyera sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine. Isinabay ang nasabing tawag sa ikatlong taong anibersaryo ng sapilitang pagsakop ng Russia sa Ukraine na nangangahulugan na hindi kailanman aatrasan ng Beijing ang alyansa nila ni Putin. Git ni Xi, matibay ang samahan ng China at Russia dahil sa nagbabahagi sila ng mga estratehiya at ito ay pangmatagalan sa kabila ng paglapit ng relasyon ng Washington sa Moscow sa mga nakaraang linggo. Tila pinaringgan pa ni Xi Jinping ang Estados Unidos kung saan sinabi nitong history and reality show that China and Russia are good neighbors that cannot be moved away and true friends who shall weal and woe. Itinuturing naman ng Russia na ang ginawang pagtawag ay isang pagiging pagkakaibigan ng dalawang lider.
Nagbitiw sa kanyang pwesto si New Zealand Commerce Minister Andrew Bailey. Ito ay matapos sa pagbuhatan niya ng kamay ang isa nitong staff member. Sinabi nitong labis siyang nagsisisi sa nangyari kung saan nadala lamang siya ng matinding argumento. Bagamat buwaba na sa pwesto ay mananatili pa rin siyang miyembro ng parlamento. Noong Oktubre po ng nakaraang taon ay sumailalim na sa investigasyon si Bailey dahil sa pangutya sa isang magsasaka at pag-inom nito ng alak habang nagsasagawa ng parliamentary session. Kinundi na naman ni New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon ang naging asal ni Bailey kung saan tinawag niya itong hindi karapat-dapat para sa isang lingkod bayan na pagbuhatan ng kamay ang publiko. Sa kabila ng pagbaba ni Luxon sa pwesto, ay binatikos ni Labour leader Chris Hipkins kung saan sinabi niya sa kabila ng pasasalamat ng buwaba sa pwesto si Bailey ay dapat hindi na pinatigil ni Luxon ang termino ni Bailey sa dami ng kontrobersya.
Tiniyak ni Pangulong Volodymyr Zelensky na pinaplantsa ng Ukraine at ng Estados Unidos ang isang economic deal. Ito ay sa gitna ng mga usapan patungkol sa pagwawakas ng labanan sa pagitan ng Kiev at Moscow. Si Mala Simbulan para sa mga detalye.
Noong Lunes, sa ikatlong taon ng labanan sa pagitan ng Ukraine at Russia, nag-host ng isang pulong ng European leaders ang Kyiv. Sa kanyang mensahe gamit ang video link sa mga leader ng mga bansa ng G7, kabilang din kay US President Donald Trump, sinabi ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na magkasamang tinatrabaho ng Kyiv at Washington ang isang economic deal.
And we need to meet as soon as possible to define the terms of peace and security guarantees. Our teams are already working productively with the U.S. on economic agreement, which we hope to sign in Washington. And President Trump, we would really like to hear from you because all our people, all our families are very worried. Will there be support from America? Will America be the leader of the free world? And I want to be very honest with you. For our people, for life in general, it's so important that American support, American assistance remains. And really, I believe we can be just as effective in securing real guarantees for peace. And even today,
Sinabi rin ni Zelensky na kailangang isama rin sa usapang pangkapayapaan ang Ukraine at ang Europe.
very start of this war, we have wanted peace, and now more than ever, we believe that real and lasting peace is possible if we stand together, of course. And it's essential that we work together so that when we negotiate with Russia, the strongest defenders of freedom are at the table: America, Europe, and the Ukraine. And Ukraine, this is where a real peace deal can happen.
Matapos akusahan ni Trump na isang diktador si Zelensky at napasimuno ng gyera, sinabi ng Kyiv na nasa huling mga hakbang na ito ng pakikipagkasundo sa Washington ukol sa pagbibigay ng access sa yamang mineral ng Ukraine. Nananawagan si Zelensky kay Trump na tumulong makamit ang kapayapaang base sa garantiyang pansiguridad para sa Ukraine.
We all know his strengths. And we hope, Mr. President, that it will help make peace through strengths, a reality, a peace based on security guarantees from America, from Europe, and all who can protect military, economic, and political security guarantees.
Noong isang linggo, direktang nakipag-usap ang US sa Russia nang hindi isinali ang Ukraine at Europe, isang kabigla-biglang hakbang ng Amerika ukol sa laban ng Kyiv at Moscow. May nasimbulan para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Samantala, pwedeng maging miyembro ng European Union ang Ukraine bago matapos ang taong 2030 kung magiging mabilis umano ang pagreforma ng bansang ito. Yan po ang sinabi ni European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen sa isang press conference. Bernhard Gonzaga para sa karagdagang detalye.
Noong Lunes, sinabi ni European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen na posibleng makasali ang Ukraine sa European Union bago ang 2030 kung dire-diretso ang reforma ng bansa.
But again, I really appreciate the political will that is there. I would even say Ukraine, merits-based process, if they continue at that speed and at that quality, perhaps they could be earlier than 2030. So thank you very much for giving the impulse. and let's work hard on all sides really to keep the momentum up.
Samantala, dagdag ni UE Council President Antonio Costa na sakaling mapaanib na nga ang Ukraine sa Union, ito ang pinakamahalagang garantiyang pansiguridad para sa kinabukasan ng KYIV.
Ukraine accession to the European Union will be the most important security guarantee for the future of Ukraine. And we have already decided that this new institutional cycle will be the institutional cycle of enlargement to Ukraine, to Moldova, to Western Balkans, and we don't know with Georgia.
Ipinahayag ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ang kanyang pag-asa na matapos na ang giyera sa lalong madaling panahon. Anya malaking bagay sa seguridad ng kanyang bansa kung mapaanib na ang Ukraine sa UE.
We hope that we can finish this war this year, not in 3 years. It's very, very difficult. Very difficult for all our nation to go through this war, but with all respect to our soldiers and our people. So I can't speak about 3 years. If we speak about how to prepare security because of the Russia, they can come back in 10 years if we will not be prepared. They will not come back if we will pressure them, put them to their place, to their territory. And if Ukraine will be in EU and in NATO in closest years, of course it will help us very much.
Nagbabala naman si Estonian Prime Minister Kristen Michal na marahil tamaan ng hindi makatarungang kapayapaan ang lahat ng bansa dahil sa pag-iisip na maaaring gawin ng kahit sino ang gusto nitong gawin.
The unjust peace probably would hit everybody, also United States, because Iran, North Korea, everybody would assess that they can do whatever they want. So everybody in this probably are together.
Ani Finnish President Alexander Stubb, kailangan magkaisa ang UE dahil sa kasalukuyan nagaganap ang pag-uusap pangkapayapaan nang hindi sila kasali.
We need to get our act together. And in order to get an act together, you have to have a plan to the Americans. Because if you don't have a plan to the Americans, you're not going to get involved in negotiations. And right now, the negotiations are happening above our heads without any kind of a plan and strategy. That's why I think this meeting has been extremely important. And that's why I think that the next 2 weeks are crucial also about the future of European security.
Ipinahayag naman ni Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda ang kanyang mga pag-aalinlangan ukol sa sanay isang ulirang sitwasyon para sa Europa.
Europeans with the backing of the United States would be ideal solution. Are we there? I have my doubts. Maybe my doubts will disappear in the coming weeks or coming months. At least I am looking forward to the Hague summit. I hope there will be positive news from this summit despite all our reservations.
Bernard Gonzaga para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagbabala ang Finland noong Lunes na matatalo ang Estados Unidos kung mananalo ang Russia sa giyera sa Ukraine. Si Rose Bapa Angeles para sa report.
Sa gitna ng pag-aalinlangan sa Europe ukol sa intensyon ni Pangulong Donald Trump, nagbabala si Finnish President Alexander Stubb na ikatatalo ng Estados Unidos sakaling magtagumpay ang Russia sa laban nito sa Ukraine.
If there's an iota or an inkling of understanding that Putin wins this peace, then the United States will have lost. So I think we need to fight this to the bitter end and find a peace in which Europe, Ukraine, and the United States win.
Dagdag ni Stubb, ang giyera sa Ukraine ay tungkol sa seguridad ng Europe at pamumuno ng Amerika.
It would be that the war in Ukraine is not only about Ukrainian independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. It is about European security and it is about American leadership.
Kamakailan kinwestiyon ni US President Donald Trump ang military commitments ng Estados Unidos sa alyansa. Inakusahan din nito ang Europe ng hindi paggugol ng patas sa depensa. Si Trump ang kumokontrol sa pinakamakapangyarihang militar ng NATO. Ani Stubb, nagbago ang panigan sa Transatlantic Alliance.
There is definitely a shift in the Transatlantic Alliance and it's always a two-way street. So on one hand, the United States, I think correctly, is putting on some demands on Europe on taking more responsibility for its own security. And then, of course, on the other hand, it's time for the Europeans to step up to the plate and have some skin in the game. So there's definitely a shift. I am not worried.
Rose Papayangeles para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Samantala, ayon sa ilang royal sources, bibisita si King Charles sa Italy at maging sa Estados Unidos ngayong taon. Subalit bago po ang lahat, abala ang hari at sila Prince William and Princess Kate sa kanilang royal duties sa United Kingdom. Mula naman sa London, England, kasama natin si Grace Rivera para sa report.
Sa Buckingham Palace ay mainit na tinanggap ni King Charles, Queen Camilla at Princess Anne ang mga panauhin para sa pagdiriwang ng mga humanitarian works. Nagkaroon ng exhibit sa palasyo kung saan ipinakita ang mga pagtulong sa mga mahihirap na tao o magugulong lugar sa Afghanistan, Ukraine, Pakistan, Turkey at Syria. Ipinagdiwang din ang milestone anniversaries ng 4 na organisasyon. Binati at pinasalamatan ng hari ang mga lumahok dahil sa 165 years of global humanitarian work ng kanilang mga grupo. Samantala, kinumpirma nila Prince William at Princess Kate ang kanilang pagbabalik sa kanilang official duties bago ang March 1. Bibisita ang royal couple sa Ronda Cannon Taff para makipagpulong sa mga miyembro o komunidad na naapektuhan ng matinding pagbaha roon bunsod ng mga bagyong Bert at Dara noong nakaraang taon. Layon ng kanilang pagbisita roon ay suportahan ang recovery effort sa Ronda Cannon Taff at ipakita rin ang pagiging matatag ng mga residente roon. Grace Rivera from London, United Kingdom para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Libo-libo ang nagtipon sa Beirut noong linggo upang magbigay galang sa pinaslang na lider ng Hezbollah na si Hassan Nasrallah 5 buwan matapos siyang paslangin sa isang airstrike ng Israel. Si Nasrallah ay namuno sa Hezbollah sa loob ng ilang dekada laban sa Israel at nagpatuloy sa pagpapalakas ng grupo bilang isang makapangyarihang puwersang militar na may impluensya sa buong rehiyon. Ang libing ay ginanap sa mga kontroladong subdivision ng Hezbollah sa timog ng Beirut, kung saan ang mga taga-suporta ay may bitbit na mga larawan ni Nasrallah at mga watawat ng Hezbollah. Ang seremonya ay sinagawa sa Camille Chamoun Sports City Stadium na may kapasidad na 55,000. Kasama sa mga dumalo si Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, mga delegasyon mula sa Iraq na may mga Shiite na politiko at militia commanders, pati na rin ang mga kinatawan mula sa Houthi ng Yemen. Ang mass funeral ay nagpapahiwatig ng pagpapakita ng lakas ng Hezbollah pagkatapos ng matinding epekto ng digmaan laban sa Israel noong nakaraang taon, kung saan karamihan sa kanilang pamunuan ay pinaslang at libu-libo sa kanilang mga militar ang namatay. Kasama sa inilibing si Hashem Safiaddin na pansamantalang namuno sa Hezbollah matapos ang pagkamatay ni Nasrallah, ngunit napatay din ito sa isang airstrike ng Israel bago pa man siya mailuklok ng opisyal bilang kahalili. Ang ibang parte ng seremonya ni Nasrallah ay pinagpaliban ang paglipad ng mga Israeli fighter planes na nagsagawa ng flight surveillance sa naturang lugar. Kasalukuyan ding ginagawa ng IDF ang pag-atras ng kanilang puwersa mula sa Lebanon sa ilalim ng kasunduan ng ceasefire na ginawa ng Estados Unidos na nagtapos sa digmaan noong nakaraang taon. Sa pagtapos naman ng seremonya ay iginiit ni Hezbollah Chief Naim Qassem na kailanman ay hindi papasupil o papasakop sa kahit kanino magpakailanman ang Lebanon.
لن نخضع لن نقبل باستمرار قتلنا واحتلالنا ونحن نتفرج ولا يمكن لأحد أن يطلب منا بأن ننكشف وأن نقدم ما لدينا من قوة ليتحكم بنا العدو. أنتم تعرفون نحن أبناء هيهات منا الذلة.
Nanawagan ang opisyal ng Hamas sa mga peace deal mediators na pilitin ng Israel na sumunod na sa kasunduan. Ayon po kay senior Hamas official Bassem Naim, ang ginawang pagtigil ng Israel sa pagpapakawala ng 620 Palestinian prisoners ay magdudulot ng kapahamakan sa peace deal. Marapat sa mga mediators, lalo na ang US, na i-pressure ang Israel para tumalima sa kasunduan at pakawalan kaagad ang mga prisoners. Nitong nakaraang Sabado kasi ay pinakawala ng Hamas ang 6 nilang bihag, subalit hindi naman tumugon ng Israel na magpakawala rin ng mga Palestinian inmates. Maggugunitang kaya ipinagpaliban nila ang pagpapakawala sa mga Palestinian prisoners ay dahil sa ikinagalit nila ang ginawang seremonya ng Hamas na ipinarada pa sa publiko ang mga bangkay ng kanilang binihag.
Daang-daang pulis ng Congo ang bumaligtad na sa kanilang gobyerno para sumali sa mga rebelding grupo ng Rwanda. Si Leslie Gumarang para sa mga detalye.
Grupo-grupong opisyal ng Congolese Police ang nagtipon sa okupadong Bukavu City noong Sabado, kumakanta at pumapalakpak upang markahan ang kanilang pagsasanay sa ilalim ng Rwanda-backed rebels na tila planong magtagal sa Bukavu upang mamuno roon. Ang pag-anib ay 1 linggo matapos umabansa ng M23 rebels papasok sa ikalawang pinakamalaking bayan ng silangang bahagi ng Democratic Republic of the Congo. Niyanig ito ng nakawan at kaguluhan ng umatras sa laban ang puwersang Congolese. Dahil sa pag-okupa ng M23 sa ilang bayan ng Eastern Congo at pagkuha nito ng yamang mineral ng bansa, pinangangambahan na nagbabadyang mas malawak na labanan. Ipinag-utos rin ng UN Security Council na tigilan na ng M23 ang panggugulo at umatras na mula sa DRC. Sa Bukavu, walang hudyat na diringgin ng M23 ang UN. Nakasuot na ng bagong mga uniforme ang dating Congolese police. Sinabihan ng mga ito na magsasanay muna at pagbalik ay susuporta na sa M23. May 1,800 kapulisan ang sumurrender na para sa nakatakdang retraining sa ilalim ng M23. Ayon sa tagapagsalita ng AFC Rebel Alliance na si Lawrence Kanyuka, sinasabing may 500 pa ang susunod sa mga ito. Kabilang sa alyansang ito ang M23. Hindi tumugon ang pamahalaan ng Congo ukol sa pangyayari. Leslie Gumarang para sa mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Noong Biyernes, pinauwi pabalik ng Venezuela ang mga migranteng dumaong sa isang isla sa Panama. Sakay na mga bangka pauwi na bigo po ang mga ito dahil sa mga bagong tuntuning pang-imigrasyon ng Estados Unidos. Jonah Malyari po para sa balitang yan.
Dahil sa paghihigpit ng Estados Unidos sa mga migranteng papasok sa bansa, bumuelta mula Panama ang mga bangkang galing sa Venezuela, lula ng mga nagnanaisa ng humanap ng mas maginhawang buhay. Para sa ilang mga migrante, mas nanaisin nilang bumalik na lang kaysa manatili sa Panama na hindi naman nila bayan.
Yo soy de Venezuela, soy venezolano. Y pues obviamente tengo que llegar a mi tierra y pues ahí ver qué es lo que tengo que hacer de ahora en adelante. Y en realidad sí, voy porque allá es mi casa y pues allá donde tengo que llegar, porque nada voy a hacer en Panamá, en Costa Rica, en Nicaragua, en ninguno de esos países porque no soy oriundo de allí.
Ang mga migranteng ito ay maglalakbay mula sa Panama patungong Lamiel Port na malapit sa Colombian border. Mula doon, bibiyahe sila pauwi ng Venezuela. At dahil wala namang diplomatic relations ang Panama at Venezuela, hindi maaaring sumailalim ang Venezuelan sa isang repatriation program. Bahala rin sila pabalik sa kanilang bansa kung nais nila. Sumasakay ang mga migrante sa mga bangka upang makaiwas sa Darien region sa pagitan ng Colombia at Panama na sinasabing mapanganib para sa mga tumatawid dahil sa mga aktibidad ng kriminal na nananamantala sa kahinaan ng mga naglalakbay. Jonna Malari, mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Simply reject it. Ito ang mariing utos ni Raul Mulino, presidente ng Panama, sa kanyang foreign minister. Kung Kung sakali anyang makipag-usap ang U.S. Southern Command tungkol sa umunoy impluwensya ng China sa Panama Canal. Sinabi ni President Molino na hindi niya nais na pag-usapan ang mga kasinungalingan tungkol sa issue ng pagkontrol umano ng China sa nasabing kanal. Bumisita sa White House si French President Emmanuel Macron kung saan personal na nakapulong nito si U.S. President Donald Trump.
It's time to end this bloodletting and restore peace, and I think we're going to do it. We've had some great conversations, including with Russia, and I've spoken with both President Putin and President Zelensky, and again, a lot of good things toward peace are happening, moving it, I think, pretty quickly. Our focus is on achieving a ceasefire as soon as possible and ultimately a permanent peace. My meeting with President Macron today was another important step forward in that sphere because he's been very much involved right from the beginning in trying to get it over with, and we're going to get it done. I believe that Emmanuel agrees with me on many of the most important issues. Chief among them is this is the right time. It may be the only time, you know. This has led to...
Now this is a chance. There is a big change because there is a new U.S. administration. So this is a new context. So there is good reason for President Trump to re-engage with President Putin. I think it's good to have discussion. I think it's useful to have negotiation. I think it's super important to go to the peace. But my strong point was to say, let's try to get something first which can be assessed, checked and verified. And let's be sure that we build sufficient guarantees on the short run. And this is where we are ready to be engaged. As for France, a lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged. But we do need this American backup because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees. And this is our collective deterrence capacity.
Ilan sa mga natalakay ay ang pagkakaroon ng mahigpit na ugnayan ng dalawang bansa. Naging magkahalo naman ang reaksyon ng dalawang pinuno ng Estado matapos tanungin sa kanilang posisyon ukol sa Russia-Ukraine war. Tila nagkaroon pa ng hindi pagkakaintindihan ng dalawang lider dahil sa language barrier sa gitna ng press briefing pagdating sa pangako ni Macron na handa ang European Union na itaguyod ang seguridad para sa Ukraine.
C'est un moment important de la discussion. On veut bâtir la paix en Ukraine et le bilan qui a été rappelé, une réalité, il y a plus d'1 million de morts et de blessés depuis le début de ce conflit et de cette guerre d'agression. Notre volonté, c'est que cette paix dure parce que nous avons déjà eu un cessez-le-feu et une paix qui n'a pas été respectée. C'était les accords de Minsk, 1 puis 2. Et donc le corps de cette discussion, c'est de s'assurer d'abord qu'il y ait un cessez-le-feu, ensuite que les Ukrainiens soient impliqués. Je pense que ce que vient de dire un instant, le président Trump est très important, c'est-à-dire qu'il va rencontrer rapidement le président Zelensky pour signer cet accord sur les minerais critiques et les terres rares, et que c'est aussi un moyen d'avoir une implication américaine forte. Les Européens sont prêts à prendre leur charge sous des formes diverses, de soutien à l'armée ukrainienne, de présence, y compris pour s'assurer que la paix soit durable. Et l'implication dans la durée des États-Unis d'Amérique à travers cet accord est une bonne chose. Et donc tout est encore à construire. Et je ne veux pas préempter les discussions. Mais nous partageons le même objectif et ce qu'on a discuté ce matin pendant 1 heure après la visioconférence ensemble et ce qu'on va continuer de travailler sont pour moi des bonnes avancées.
I have no idea what you say, but that is elegant, beautiful language. Go ahead, please.
Nagkaroon ng pagkontra ang dalawa matapos na sabihin ni Trump na pinapautang umano ng Europa ang Ukraine sa paglaban sa Russia. Git ni Trump, babayaran ni Volodymyr Zelensky ang lahat ng ipinahiram nito sa Europa kung kaya't ipinilit niyang kailangan ay bayaran din ng Ukraine ang Amerika. Nilinaw naman ni Macron na hindi umano ito pautang sa Ukraine. Ang ibinigay nilang pondo at sa halip ito ay tulong para malabanan ang panunupil ng Russia. Klinaro pa niyan ang pinag-uusapan ni Trump na pambayad ng utang na sinasabi ni Trump ay ang mga assets sa foreign accounts at dollar reserves na kanilang kinumpiska mula sa Russia sa okasyong matapos ang giyera ay paghahatian ng lahat ng bansa ang interes na nakuha nila mula sa mga ito.
Susunod, Colombian national arestado matapos mag-smuggle ng droga sa kanyang wig.
Starbucks nagsagawa ng restructuring plan, mahigit 1,000 empleyado sibak.
At jersey ni Andre Iguodala, ireretiro na ng Golden State Warriors. Mga detalye po ng mga balitang yan at iba pa sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International. Nagbabalik pa rin po ang Mata ng Agila International sa pagpapatuloy ng ating mga balita ngayong gabi. 4 na construction workers patay habang 6 na iba pang sugatan sa gumuhong highway bridge sa isang construction site sa Ancheong, Gyeonggi sa South Korea. Ayon sa fire authorities, 5 concrete beams na nakatayo sa 52-meter high na haligi ang bumagsak kaninang 9:49 ng umaga. Nasa 10 trabahador sa construction site ang natrap dahil sa nahulog na debris mula sa gumuhong highway. Kaagad namang rumisponde ang higit 200 personnel kasama ang mga special rescue experts at chemical special para sa operasyon. Bandang 2:21 p.m. naman nang natagpuan ng mga rescuers ang huling biktima na wala ng buhay. Nagsimula na ng hiwalay na investigasyon ang Gyeonggi Nambu Police Agency para alamin ang sanhi ng pagguho ng highway. Humingi naman ng paumanhin ng Hyundai Engineering na siyang nangunguna sa pagpapatayo ng nasabing proyekto. Anila, makikipagtulungan sila sa mga otoridad para matapos na mapayapa ang investigasyon sa nasabing trahedya.
Isang transport vessel naman ang bumangga sa isang port structure sa Brazil. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nasira ang nagsisilbing tulay patungo sa waterfront. Dahil sa impact ng pagbangga, barko ay humiwalay ang tulay mula sa waterfront. Iniimbestigahan na ng mga otoridad kung bakit dumiretso ang barko sa daungan. Pansamantala namang isinara ang nasabing daungan para kumpunihin ito.
Arestado ang isang Colombian national matapos subukang magpuslit ng cocaine sa kanyang flight patungo ng Amsterdam. Ayon sa pulisya, nahulihan ng Colombian national ng 19 na cocaine capsules na itinago nito sa ilalim ng kanyang suot na wig. At batay sa estimates ng Colombian authorities, nagkakahalaga ang mga nasabat na droga ng 10,000 euros. Kasalukuyang hawak na ng Attorney General's Office for Crime of Trafficking, Manufacturing and Carrying Narcotic Substances ang nasabing suspect.
Gumamit umano ng isang sledgehammer ang magnanakaw para tangayin ang golden toilet sa Blenheim Palace, England na nagkakahalaga ng 2.8 million British pounds o nasa mahigit 2 billion pesos ayon sa isang report. Ang toilet na may pamagat na Amerika ay gawa ng Italian artist na si Maurizio Cattelan. I-exhibit sana sa Oxfordshire sa isang lumang bahay ang golden toilet nang nakawin ito ng madaling araw. Tinatayang nasa o may bigat na 98 kilos ang naturang golden toilet at mayroong 18 carat na fully functional at naka-insure ito ng halos $6 million. Kinilala ang isang suspect ng pagnanakaw na si Michael Jones, 39-year-old mula sa Oxford, ngunit tinanggi nito ang akusasyon. Kinilala rin ng pulisya ang dalawang sospek na kasama ni Jones na sina Frederick Sainz, 36-year-old mula Wingfield, Berkshire at Bora Gukuk, 41-year-old naman. Itinanggi rin ni na Sainz at Berkshire na may kinalaman sila sa pagnanakaw at pagbebenta ng ginintuang toilet.
Samantala, bumalik na sa kanilang mga silid-aralan ng mga estudyante sa Bukavu ng Silangang Congo. JC Yumul po para sa balitang yan.
Ipinag-utos ng Rwanda-backed rebel movement M23 sa mga institusyong pang-edukasyon na ituloy muli ang operasyon nito matapos ang suspensyon dahil sa pag-okyupa ng mga rebelde sa bayan. Nagpatrolya sa kalye ang mga armadong mga sundalo ng M23 habang bumabalik sa kani-kanilang silid-aralan ang mga estudyante. Balik sulat sa blackboard at balik pagtataas ng kamay ang mga mag-aaral na panandaliang natigil sa pag-aaral nang okyupahan ng mga rebelde ang kanilang lugar. Samantala, magkakasalungat na emosyon ang nararamdaman ng mga magulang sa pagbabalik paaralan ng kanilang mga anak.
Nous avons accepté d'envoyer les enfants à l'école pour mieux cela. Nous l'avons accepté, nous l'avons assumé parce que nous sommes leurs parents, nous sommes leurs géniteurs, c'est nous qui prenons nos enfants en charge. Mais néanmoins, nous ne savons pas la demande qui a été formulée pour que les enfants aillent à l'école. Qui va assumer les responsabilités? Qui va prendre en charge les enseignants? Est-ce qu'on va nous ramener encore à la case départ?
Para sa mga opisyal ng paaralan, ang kanilang tanging magagawa ay tuparin ang kanilang tungkulin na magturo. Ang seguridad aniya ng mga bata sa labas ng paaralan ay nasa kamay na ng mga bagong namumuno sa bayan.
Voyez, ce n'est pas à nous de sécuriser les enfants. Nous sécurisons les enfants ici, dès qu'ils arrivent ici à l'école. Et après, nous demandons aux enfants de rentrer directement chez eux à la maison. Mais la sécurité est en train de se stabiliser du jour le jour. Et donc, de ce côté-là, j'espère que ceux qui en sont chargés, ils travaillent.
Bien évidemment, après les événements, c'est normal que tout ne soit pas à 100% fonctionnel au premier jour. Mais nous avons commencé. Et donc, pour ce qui est du début des enseignements, nous en parlerons avec les autorités. Merci.
Samantala, itinanggi ng Rwandan ang direktang kaugnayan nito sa M23 rebellion. Ayon dito, ipinagtatanggol lamang ng pwersang Rwanda ang kanilang sariling laban sa Congolese troops at milisya na nakipagsanib puwersa sa katutubong Hutu na pasimuno ng genocide sa Rwanda noong 1994. JC Yumul para sa Mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Mahigit 1,000 katao ang mawawala ng trabaho dahil sa restructuring plan na gagawin ng Starbucks. Alamin natin ang mga detalye mula kay Leo Velasco.
Noong Lunes, sinabi ng Starbucks na tatanggalin nito ang 1,100 corporate roles bilang pag-ayon sa tulak ng CEO nitong si Brian Nico na bawiin ang nawalang kita ng coffee chain. Sa isang liham, sinabi ni Nicole sa mga empleyado ng kapihan na pinasisimple nito ang struktura ng kumpanya at nag-aalis ng patong-patong at doble-dobling teams. Ngayon din anyang magbuo ng mas maliliit, mas maliliksing grupo. Layunin ng tulak na ito ang mapatakbo ng mas episyente ang kumpanya at dagdagan ang pananagutan o accountability nito. Naging CEO si Nicole noong 2024 nang mawala ang 40% shares ng kumpanya mula sa 2021 high nito dahil sa paghina ng demand sa US at China. Dahil dito, pinesto ni Nicole ang planong back to Starbucks na nakapokus sa pagsimplipika ng negosyo gamit ang pagsibak ng mga trabaho kasabay ng pagpapaganda ng customer experience sa US stores nito. Mula nang pumesto si Nicole, 6 na buwan na ang nakakaraan, bumawi ang shares ng Starbucks ng higit sa 22%. Batay sa isang report noong 2024, ang Starbucks ay may 211,000 employees sa US at nasa 150,000 naman internationally. Sinabi rin ng kumpanya na aalisin nito ang ilang hindi masyadong kilalang inumin, kabilang ang ilang frappuccino blended beverages at ang white hot chocolate bilang bahagi ng pagsimplipika ng menu nito. Lee Velasco para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Inilabas na po ng National Aeronautics and Space Administration or NASA ang kanilang moon mining robot o ang In Situ Resource Utilization Pilot Excavator or IPEX for short na gagamitin nila para sa susunod na lunar mission. Ayon sa NASA, tutulong ang IPEX sa paghuhukay para maging posible ang pag-extract ng mga astronaut ng mahahalagang resources sa buwan. Anila, nakadesenyo ang IPEX para epektibong maghukay sa buwan at magdala ng lunar regolith, ang mga nakakalat na bato sa buwan. Gumagamit po ang IPEX ng novel design katulad ng rotating hollow cylinders na may scoops na kung tawagin ng NASA ay bucket drums na gagamitin naman sa pagmiminang ng regoliths. Layon kasi ng NASA na pag-aralan ang regolith at alamin kung ano ang mga essential resources sa buwan katulad ng hydrogen, oxygen at pati na rin ang tubig.
Either side of the excavator, turn and dig in opposite directions.
Naging emosyonal si dating Golden State Warriors most valuable player Andre Iguodala matapos na iretiro ang kanyang number 9 jersey. Isinagawa ang nasabing pagre-retiro sa panalo ng Warriors na nagtapos sa 126-102 laban sa Dallas Mavericks. Ipinalabas nila ang video tribute para sa 2015 NBA Finals MVP at ilang mga highlights nito sa Warriors. Maging si Mavericks player Klay Thompson ay niyakap ang dating kasamahan sa Warriors. Mayroong average si Iguodala na 6.9 points at 3.8 rebounds per game. Naging susi siya ng palitan niya si Andrew Bogut para makuha ng Warriors ang kampyonato sa NBA Finals laban sa Cleveland Cavaliers.
At dumepensa po ang American singer na si John Legend sa pagsasagawa nito ng isang concert sa Rwanda. Umani kasi ito ng batikos dahil ang Rwanda ay siyang sangkot sa pakikipaglaban sa katabing bayan na Democratic Republic of Congo. Sinabi nitong hindi tama na parusahan ang mga tao sa Rwanda dahil ang mga sangkot lamang sa pananakop sa Congo ay yung mga militanteng grupo. Magugulitang sinusuportahan ng Rwanda ang M23 rebels na siyang sumakop sa malaking lungsod ng Congo.
Para ibsan ang kalungkutan ng mga elderly sa China, ay kanilang dinala ang isang kakaibang aso na nagngangalang Xiaoqi. Si Xiaoqi ay hindi basta-basta isang aso, kundi siya ay isang robotic dog. Ayon sa Golden Autumn Elderly Care Home sa Xihu District sa Hangzhou, China, kanilang dinala si Xiaoqi bilang tulong na rin sa mga senior residents sa kanilang pasilidad. Anila, si Xiaoqi na ang nagde-deliver ng kanilang mga gamot ng harapan. Ang robotic dog na ito ay equipped ng high-precision radar at camera para maisagawa ang autonomous route planning at maiwasan ang mga pagbangga sa mga obstacles. Sinabi naman ng management ng nursing home na kahit hindi aktwal na hayop si Xiaoqi, ay nagbigay naman ito ng kasiglahan sa bahay ng mga senior citizens doon.
At sa lutuing Pilipino ay sahog ang kalabasa sa mga luto-ulam na gulay dahil sa sustansyang taglay naman talaga ito. Pero ibahin po natin ito sa Yemen dahil sa halip na ulam ay nako, ginagawa pa nilang itong dessert or panghimagas. Kilalanin ang daba o ang pumpkin dessert. Ang daba ay pwedeng ihanda sa iba't ibang paraan. Maaaring lutuin ito bilang jam at lagyan ng gatas o tahini at sesame. Ang iba naman ay mas gustong hiwa-hiwain ang kalabasa at ipasok sa oven at may iba rin na gustong gawing inumin ang daba. Ayon kay Ryan Alfaik, matamis ang daba at maaaring ibahin ang lasa nito depende sa uri ng kalabasang pipiliin para sa dessert. At dahil dito, popular na sweet dish ang daba sa Yemen at higit pa rito ay masustansya rin ito sa beta-carotene para sa vitamin A, isang sustansyang kailangan ng ating katawan.
Ayun o, mukhang masarap siya. Daba.
Ayan, masarap ka magluto, Nina. Ayan, so ano naman yung meron ka bang particular dish na talagang kailangan mo ng kalabasa?
Oo naman, like pinakbet, alam mo yan, bilang meron kang pagkailokana.
Yes.
Tsaka yung bulang lang na tinatawag.
Ano yung buyang
May pagka-bulang, gusto ko yung, ano yung buyang yan?
Bulang lang, ano yung bulang lang?
Parang bulaklak ng, yung bulang lang, para rin siyang pinakbet Tagalog, pero
At
may
pang
gata.
Tagalog.
Na may konting bagoong. Ay, ang sarap!
So, ginatang kalabasa?
Parang may pagka-Bicol Express, tama, Direk?
Naku, dapat
may pagka-ganun. Naku, dadalang kita.
Sa susunod nating pagtitipon-tipon dito, kasi lagi po kaming merong potluck ni Nina dito. Susunod, gusto ko yan. Ang bulang lang.
Careful not to mispronounce
it.
Yes, buyang. Baka ibang daling ko bulaklak ng kalabasa.
Ay, masarap din yung bulaklak.
Diba? Pwede rin yun. Na nakabuyang niya.
Ako man gusto ko yung soup. Pumpkin
Ayun,
soup.
sarap din niya.
Pumpkin soup. At
parang
saka,
sosyal.
At akala ko naman, masyadong kakaiba naman. Alam mo ba, dito lang, meron na rin tayo mga pumpkin na mga desserts.
mga ganyan, na may pagka...
Oo, tsaka pumpkin pie, di ba? Sarap-sarap.
Oo, correct. Totoo din naman.
O, yan.
Pero ang galing sa kanila kasi it's used more for desserts rather than for dishes, di ba?
Oo, talaga naman.
So, I guess kanya-kanya.
Bago tayo tuluyang magutom, ito turn over naman natin sila sa ating napakagandang kasamahan. At tandaan po narito kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Gandang gabi po. Ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Alagao Flores, itong Mata ng Agila International. At para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nanggaling din sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net 25 World News. On tonight's headlines. In today's top story, an optimistic President Macron arrived at the White House, making him the first European leader to visit Washington since President Trump's re-election. His mission, to seek a consensus on ending the war in Ukraine.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid. We paid 60% of the total effort.
And the news starts now. In today's top story, an optimistic President Macron arrived at the White House, making him the first European leader to visit Washington since President Trump's re-election. His mission, to seek a consensus on ending the war in Ukraine and to stabilize the strained transatlantic relationship.
Well, thank you very much. We very much appreciate the attention. Today's a big day in that we had a G7 and President Macron is a very special man in my book. We were together, we did it together, and I think a lot of progress has been made. We've had some very good talks with Russia. We've had some very good talks with others, and we're trying to get the war ended with Russia and Ukraine, and I think we've come a long way in a short period of weeks.
It appeared that the old camaraderie was returning, but differences quickly emerged, especially regarding each side's contribution. Meanwhile, Trump continues to push for Ukraine to hand over half of its key natural resources as compensation for America's support. He added that a deal with Ukraine's President Zelensky is near.
I will be meeting with President Zelensky. In fact, he may come in this week or next week to sign the agreement, and which would be nice. I'd love to meet him. Would meet at the Oval Office. So the agreement's being worked on now. They're very close to a final deal. It'll be a deal with rare earths and various other things, and he would like to come, as I understand it, here to sign it, and that would be great with me.
On the compensation issue, Macron held firm, stressing that Russia should bear the cost.
And it's part of the negotiation at the end of the war. Because, this war costed all of us a lot of money. And this is the responsibility of Russia, because the aggressor is Russia.
There is, however, a glimmer of agreement on another front. Both France and the UK are open to deploying European peacekeeping troops in Ukraine following a truce.
I think it's good to have discussion. I think it's useful to have negotiation. I think it's super important to go to the peace. But my strong point was to say, let's try to get something first which can be assessed, checked and verified. And let's be sure that we build sufficient guarantees on the short run. And this is where we are ready to be engaged. As for France, a lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged. But we do need this American backup, because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees. And this is our collective deterrence capacity.
While European leaders are hopeful of returning to the negotiating table, questions remain about whether the U.S. will offer a security guarantee or insist on Ukraine reclaiming its territory. Just last Friday, President Trump criticized President Macron and Prime Minister Keir Starmer for doing nothing to end the war. Yet now he's praising their efforts. Clearly, his stance can change in an instant.
Trump refuses to refer to Russian President Vladimir Putin as a dictator after calling Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator last week. But Macron says it's clear that Russia is the aggressor in the conflict, a topic Trump wavered on last week. Trump expressed a desire for a ceasefire as soon as possible, and he said he was trying to arrange one between Ukraine and Russia.
And I've spoken with both President Putin and President Zelensky. And again, a lot of good things toward peace are happening, moving it, I think, pretty quickly.
Trump says he could go to Moscow to meet Putin once a deal is reached. Macron, on the other hand, urged a more deliberate approach, starting with a truce and then a peace deal that includes security guarantees. Later on Fox News, Macron said a peace deal has to consider the security of both Ukraine and the rest of Europe.
Be careful, because we need something substantial for Ukraine, but for the security of Europe and France. And second, let's work together on the future to preserve security guarantees, meaning to be sure that this peace will be respected by Russia. First, to have a truce. I think it could be done in the weeks to come. During this period of time, we negotiate on security guarantees, land and territories, and it will be the responsibility of the Ukrainian president. Reconstruction.
He adds any peace deal must be assessed, checked, and verified. The two leaders did agree, however, on the deployment of European peacekeeping forces once a peace deal is eventually reached. Trump says he accepts the concept, as does Putin. While Trump is open to a peace deal that would see Ukraine give up some of its territory to Russia, Macron says any deal should include sovereignty for Ukraine. At one point during the news conference, Trump portrayed himself as the great deal maker, boasting about his negotiating skills.
I think Russia, likewise, I've spoken to President Putin, and my people are dealing with him constantly, and his people in particular. And they want to do something. I mean, that's what I do. I do deals. My whole life is deals. That's all I know is deals. And I know when somebody wants to make it and when somebody doesn't.
Throughout the news conference, Macron stuck to the issue of securing lasting peace with security guarantees for Ukraine and Europe. Macron is the first European leader to visit Trump since he regained power a month ago. He calls his discussions with Trump a turning point in the drive for a more unified approach. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will visit Trump later in the week. Thomas I. Likeness, Net 25 World News.
The United Nations Security Council adopted a U.S. drafted resolution on the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine that takes a neutral position on the conflict as U.S. President Donald Trump seeks to broker peace.
This resolution puts us on the path to peace. It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community.
And the terms of the peace must send a message that aggression does not pay.
Until now, the 15-member council has been unable to take any action on the conflict in Ukraine because Russia is a veto power. The U.S. resolution received 10 votes in favor, while France, Britain, Denmark, Greece, and Slovenia abstained. Now, on Monday, Ukraine marked 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion, a grim milestone amid an ongoing conflict. Deputy Prime Minister Ola Stefanishina announced that Ukraine and the U.S. are in the final stages of negotiating a minerals deal, a move many see as key to ending the war. Now, does this mean Ukraine is finally edging closer to peace? And what might such a deal look like? Take a look.
As Russia's war in Ukraine entered its fourth year on Monday, the Kremlin said it welcomed what it called a new U.S. approach to dialogue with Moscow. U.S. President Donald Trump has flipped the switch on Western efforts to isolate Moscow following the war, as he and his officials engage with their Russian counterparts over plans to end it. Ukraine has said it's committed to a diplomatic resolution to the war. But with Kyiv and Europe shut out of those talks, Washington seems inclined to grant Russia a number of concessions that may be hard for Ukraine to swallow. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has told NATO allies it was unrealistic for Ukraine to join the military alliance if it wants to settle with Russia. Moscow has demanded NATO scrap its 2008 promise to one day give Kyiv membership. It has also dismissed the idea of having NATO member forces act as peacekeepers in Ukraine under a ceasefire deal. In November, Reuters reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin was ready to cut a deal with Trump if Kyiv dropped its goal to join NATO and if Moscow didn't have to make major territorial concessions. How much land Russia can keep is a critical issue moving forward. It now controls nearly 1/5 of Ukraine, or an area about the size of the U.S. state of Ohio, mostly in the east and south. Putin in June last year said he wants Ukraine's troops out of 4 Ukrainian regions claimed and mostly controlled by Russia. The U.S. defense chief in February dismissed Ukrainian hopes of restoring its internationally recognized borders.
Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering.
For any deal to happen, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Kyiv needs security guarantees to prevent any future Russian attack. But the Trump administration has made clear it will send no troops. That places the burden on European powers, which are likely to struggle without U.S. backing. Britain and France are firming up ideas with allies for military guarantees for Ukraine, according to Western officials. The two leaders will seek to persuade Trump to provide U.S. assurances after any ceasefire deal.
It's time to take responsibility for our security, our continent. And I'm clear that Britain will take a leading responsibility. We have to be ready to play our role if a force is required in Ukraine once a peace agreement is reached.
Ukraine does have one thing to offer the US, its mineral wealth, including lithium, which is key to making electric vehicle batteries. Zelensky rejected an initial deal to give Washington 50% of Ukraine's critical minerals, saying it offered no security guarantees. But with little leverage on hand, Ukraine is set to sign a minerals deal soon. Reuters also reported that US negotiators had raised the possibility of cutting Ukraine's access to Elon Musk's Starlink satellite internet system, which has played a vital role in Kyiv's military operations. Musk has denied this. On Monday, Zelensky's deputy posted on X saying Ukrainian and US teams are in the final stages of negotiations regarding the minerals agreement, adding that Ukraine hopes to sign the deal in Washington with officials there, quote, to showcase our commitment for decades to come.
Our teams are already working productively with the U.S. on economic agreement, which we hope to sign in Washington. And President Trump, we would really like to hear from you, because all our people, all our families are very worried. Will there be support from America? Will America be the leader of the free world? And I want to be very honest with you. For our people, for life in general, it's so important that American support, American assistance remains. And really, I believe we can be just as effective in securing real guarantees for peace.
The Trump administration has lifted its freeze on financial assistance for Philippine military modernization. The Department of Foreign Affairs confirmed on Monday. Now, DFA spokesperson Teresita Daza said the Philippine government was informed of the exemption, which includes $336 million to modernize the country's security forces. Daza noted the U.S. and Philippines remain committed to strengthening their defense cooperation. Furthermore, while the Biden administration had pledged $500 million for the modernization of the armed forces and Coast Guard, the Trump administration has authorized $5.3 billion in previously frozen aid. During a meeting in Germany on February 14, Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reaffirmed the value of the U.S.-Philippine development cooperation. One of Southeast Asia's biggest and longest-running military exercises began today in northeastern Thailand. More than 8,000 troops from 30 countries are taking part in the Cobra Gold exercise, according to an official press release. Now, this year's training includes command and control exercises, humanitarian assistance, field drills, cyber defense, space operations, and counter-drone strategies, reflecting the evolving nature of modern warfare, according to military officials.
A good question, and I think every year what we try to do is bring in, take a look at what's going on in the world around us and what type of technologies are being brought to bear, but that is why we are incorporating cyber into this exercise, for example. We're incorporating space, we're incorporating unmanned aerial systems and methods to counter those unmanned aerial systems, and that last one is one that we are seeing is very important in modern warfare. All of them are, but that last one in particular.
The 44th Cobra Gold exercise runs until March 7. The Armed Forces of the Philippines announced Friday night that they recently joined forces with the French Navy's Charles de Gaulle Carrier Strike Group for a maritime cooperative activity. Colonel Cerces Trinidad, head of the AFP's Military Public Affairs, noted that this marks the third week in a row that our forces have teamed up with others in the West Philippine Sea, operating within the Northern Luzon Command's area.
The successive conduct of MCA with other like-minded nations underscores the growing international focus on maritime security in the West Philippine Sea and aims to strengthen interoperability and defense capabilities among ally and partner nations. Through these joint maritime cooperative activities and collaborative efforts, the AP seeks to build a stronger, more resilient defense system that is prepared to address the challenges of the modern security landscape.
For the exercise, the AFP deployed a robust lineup of assets, including the missile frigate BRP Jose Rizal, the offshore patrol vessel BRP Gregorio del Pilar, an AC-90 patrol aircraft, two FA-50 or 50PH light jet fighters, and several search and rescue units from the Philippine Air Force. On the French side, their team featured the powerful aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, the Aquitaine-class frigate Province, the supply vessel Jacques Chevalier, the Horizon-class air defense destroyer Forbin, and another Aquitaine-class frigate, the Alsace. A U.S. Coast Guard cutter crossing the Tasman Sea as part of a maritime security mission with Australia and New Zealand confirmed that it was aware of Chinese naval ships in the area, but they didn't interact. That is according to its commanding officer.
Yes, we were aware of their presence. That did not affect our operations. No, we follow international norms, regulations for preventing collisions at sea, and we had no encounters, but we would expect the Chinese Navy to do the same. Of course, yeah, the Coast Guard supports a very peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific, and it's very important to demonstrate compliance with international laws and norms, and that's what we try to do every day out here.
Earlier last week, Chinese naval forces conducted live-fire exercises on Friday and Saturday in international waters between Australia and New Zealand, which Australian officials called unprecedented. These drills even forced airlines to reroute 49 commercial flights for safety reasons. A spokesperson for China's foreign ministry explained that the People's Liberation Army Navy was simply conducting exercises and training in distant waters, all while following international safety standards. Since 2024, the U.S. Coast Guard has stepped up operations in the South Pacific, patrolling for illegal fishing by distant fleets, including those from China, at the request of Pacific Island nations.
We've got a very large patch of ocean that we need to protect and provide that stability within the region. We can't do that without the United States.
Taiwan's Coast Guard said they had detained a China-linked cargo ship today on suspicion of Beijing's gray zone warfare against the island after an undersea cable to the Penghu Islands in the sensitive Taiwan Strait was disconnected. The Coast Guard said it dispatched 3 vessels to detain the Chinese-crewed Hongtai 58, registered in the Togolese Republic, which dropped anchor near the sea cable when it was disconnected off Taiwan's southwestern shores. All 8 crew members are Chinese nationals, and they don't rule out the possibility of Chinese activities of gray zone harassment. The Coast Guard said in a statement, adding further investigation is needed to determine if this is sabotage or accident. Taiwan, which China claims as its own territory, has repeatedly complained about gray zone Chinese activities around the island designed to pressure it without direct confrontation, such as balloon overflights and sand dredging. Taipei was particularly alarmed after a Chinese-linked ship was suspected of damaging a cable earlier this year, prompting agencies, including the Navy, to step up efforts to protect undersea communication cables, which are vital to the island's communications with the rest of the world. Now let's turn our attention to Indonesia, where the economic policies are once again stirring debate. Take a look. After last year's controversial iPhone ban imposed because Apple wasn't boosting local investments, President Subianto has now launched Indonesia's second sovereign wealth fund called the NARA, or Indonesia's Future Power.
Managing Indonesia's wealth and assets with very careful financial discipline and responsible governance. In our first 100 days, my administration secured over $20 billion in savings, funds that were once trapped in inefficiency, corruption, misallocation, that will now be channeled into 20 high-impact national projects, creating real long-term benefits for our people.
This fund will manage around $900 billion in assets, set to invest in key sectors like mineral processing, renewables, and food production to drive national development. President Subianto envisions a golden Indonesia, aiming to boost economic growth from 5% to 8% and transform the country into a developed nation by 2045. But not everyone is cheering. Recently, hundreds of students hit the streets in major cities, protesting against strict budget cuts and other policies, including reductions in free education and social programs. These austerity measures, cutting everything from office lighting and air conditioning after 4 p.m. to slashing the Public Works Ministry's budget by 80%, are designed to save $19 billion. The savings are meant to fund ambitious projects like a free meals program targeting 82 million people daily.
The first demand is to get rid of the president's order on budget efficiency. Second, we refuse a national strategic project that doesn't orient for the people. Third is to evaluate the free meals program. Fourth, we refuse the energy and minerals law. Fifth, we demand free education.
While about 80% of Indonesians still support the president, many worry that these measures could backfire as economic challenges mount. Thousands of foreign nationals freed from online scam operating centers in Myanmar are stuck in limbo on the border with Thailand after a multinational crackdown on the compounds run by criminal gangs. 3 sources told Reuters on Monday. Now, 2 Myanmar armed groups, the Karen National Army or KNA and the Democratic Karen Buddhist Army or DKBA, are currently holding around 7,000 former scam center workers, but are unable to send them to Thailand, according to a Thai security official and 2 aid workers. Now, footage carried by the Thai Public Broadcasting Service showed what it said were dozens of foreign nationals extracted from recent raids on scam centers gathered at compounds in the Myanmar border town of Miyawadi. Now, in recent weeks, authorities from China, Thailand, and Myanmar have attempted to dismantle scam centers and illegal online operations on the border, part of a network of illegal compounds across Southeast Asia, where hundreds of thousands have been trafficked by gangs, according to the United Nations. Thailand's foreign ministry said that agencies are currently planning for future handovers of those freed, which would proceed based on the readiness of the embassies or the countries of origin. The majority of these workers are Chinese, with about 1,000 from other foreign countries, according to the aid workers, and many of the former scam center workers are being held in dire conditions, and local authorities are concerned about the lack of sanitation and health facilities. And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang Net 25. Matatag, matapag, matapak.
Let's net together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
Now, billionaire Elon Musk's push to cut government jobs is hitting a snag, but not from his usual political opponents. It's coming from inside President Trump's own team. Musk's recent order for federal employees to justify their work sparked a fierce backlash, with several agency heads, including newly appointed FBI Director Kash Patel, telling their staff to hold off on responding. Now, Musk's efforts to streamline spending have clearly struck a nerve. One official put it this way.
And people need to understand that. It's not just eliminating government workers and saying, oh, let's trim the fat and get rid of people. But what really does that look like for a country? for a nation. So we need to think twice when we start just looking at targets, government employees as targets. We're people that are really saving the lives of people every day. I just don't think that right now we're getting good quality work output because of all the chaos and confusion and the stress that this is causing. Employees, management, everybody. It's just too much.
Not everyone is on board, though. Trump's National Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. has instructed his team to follow Musk's directive, calling it legitimate, and Ed Martin, head of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, cheered Musk's efforts. Amid the uproar, Musk downplayed the criticism on X, stating that an email with some bullet points that make any sense at all is acceptable. Yet the resistance points to growing concerns over Musk's unchecked authority. Meanwhile, President Trump doubled down on Musk's role.
I thought it was great because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows that they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist. They're trying to, that's how badly various parts of our government were run by, and especially by this last group.
For now, federal workers remain caught in the middle as the battle over government downsizing is just getting started. Apple announced that it plans to invest $500 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years. And that includes building a huge AI server factory in Texas and creating 20,000 R&D jobs, plus spending on local suppliers and Apple TV Plus content. While the company didn't break down how much of this is new spending, the announcement follows reports that CEO Tim Cook met with President Trump. With potential 10% tariffs on its China-assembled products, some see this move as a political gesture. Notably, Apple made a similar pledge in 2018, and Trump even thanked the company on Truth Social, calling it a sign of confidence in his administration. And tonight, we bring you a story that sounds straight out of a spy movie. A Colombian national caught trying to smuggle cocaine by hiding 19 capsules under his toupee as he boarded a flight from Cartagena to Amsterdam. Philip Toledo has more.
Police say the suspect never made it out of the country. They say they captured him last week as he tried to board a flight from Cartagena, Colombia to Amsterdam. According to the commander of the Cartagena Metropolitan Police, Brigadier General Galver Yesid Peña Araque, authorities made the bust after a profiling procedure. The man went through a scanner and police conducted a body search. They found about 220 grams of cocaine hidden under a hairpiece.
Through profiling, they found an individual who intended to board a flight from Cartagena to Amsterdam. This individual is profiled by one of our experts and subjected to the procedure. There, through the scanner and a body search, the wig was found, which contained more than 220 grams of cocaine that he intended to take to this country, Amsterdam, and with this, criminal profits got hit. The shipment has an approximate price of more than 10,000 euros in European territory.
Un precio aproximado de más de 10,000 euros en territorio europeo. The suspect has been handed over to the Attorney General's office and charged with trafficking, manufacture, and possession of narcotic substances. Philip Toledo for Net 25 World News.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.